Dear friends, welcome to yet another installment of Strategic Power. In this video, we will see that the British nuclear missile Trident II has had a second failed test, raising concerns about the nuclear deterrence capability of the United Kingdom and the United States. If there was a Russian attack, could the submarines still react? Watch the video to the end to understand the risks. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and activate notifications to stay up to date. On Wednesday, February 24, the British newspaper The Sun revealed that the launch of a British Trident II nuclear missile from the HMS Vanguard nuclear submarine failed last month. According to the newspaper, the first stage of the missile failed, causing the Trident to dangerously fall close to the submarine. And to make matters worse, the British Defence Secretary, Gavin Williamson, was aboard the submarine during the test. The newspaper did not go into many technical details, but from the description of the incident, the United Kingdom almost lost one of its most advanced submarines, and its defence secretary was involved in an accident with a defective nuclear missile. This was the second consecutive failure of a Trident missile launch test, with the first occurring in June 2016, when a missile had to be destroyed after abruptly changing course after launch. But what is this missile that has failed twice, and how can this affect the security of the United Kingdom and Europe as a whole? In the late 1950s, during the early nuclear race between the United States and the Soviet Union, the idea of nuclear ballistic missiles launched from submarines emerged. This would combine the stealth of submarines with the speed and payload capacity of ballistic missiles. The first SLBMs, submarine-launched ballistic missiles, began to appear in the late 1950s, with the United States unveiling the UGM-27 Polaris in 1961. It was a two-stage solid-fueled missile with a range of just over 4,500 kilometers and able to carry up to 3 nuclear warheads of 200 kilotons each. By the 1970s, the Polaris was already obsolete compared to Soviet missiles. Then, in the late 70s, the Trident I emerged, with a much greater range of up to 7,400 kilometers and the ability to carry up to 8 100-kiloton warheads, each targeting different objectives. In 1990, the Trident I was replaced by the UGM-133 Trident II, an enormous three-stage missile, weighing almost 60 tons and with a range of 12,000 kilometers. In addition, its warhead capacity increased from 8 to 14, each with up to 100 kilotons. These missiles were installed on US Ohio-class submarines, which could carry up to 20 Trident II missiles. As for the UK, in the 1980s, its Resolution-class submarines used Polaris ballistic missiles from the US, which were already obsolete at that time. This led the Royal Navy to initiate a program to replace them. However, the costs would be very high. In 1980, Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher asked US President Jimmy Carter to supply the Trident I missile, following the style of the Polaris Technology Exchange Program. However, as the Trident II program was very advanced, in 1982, US President Ronald Reagan offered Margaret Thatcher the new US missile to equip the British Vanguard-class submarines, which were in final design phase that year. The agreement between the US and the UK to share the Trident II missiles involved the concept of a common pool where all missiles would be stored and withdrawn as needed by the US Navy and the Royal Navy. In the British case, they would be equipped with domestically manufactured nuclear warheads. Thus, in 1998, the fourth and last British Vanguard-class nuclear submarine was delivered, all equipped with Trident II missiles. This means that the British submarine fleet can reach dozens of different targets with nuclear bombs of up to 100 kilotons. At least that was the idea, which was called into question after the second failed test in January. The idea behind nuclear submarines armed with nuclear ballistic missiles is that the enemy knows that, even destroying many military facilities on land, the attacked country can still counterattack with nuclear weapons launched from submarines in secret locations. However, with this second failed test, a strong doubt arises about the reliability of the British means of nuclear deterrence, also including the United States, since the Trident II missiles used by the Royal Navy come from the same joint pool from which the US Navy withdraws them. This means that US submarines may currently have defective Trident II missiles, unable to quickly respond to a surprise attack by the adversary. This failed test, and the doubts raised about British and US capabilities in terms of submarine-launched ballistic missiles, occur at a particularly tense time in the world, with Vladimir Putin's Russia carrying out several nuclear missile tests, accompanied by nuclear threats practically every week. The big question now is, if Russia launches an attack of this type, will the submarines of the United States and the United Kingdom really be able to respond in the same way? It is unacceptable for a nuclear power like the United Kingdom to have failed again in the tests of its deterrent arsenal, calling into question the very credibility of its nuclear capability in the face of adversaries. If not even the British still trust in the effectiveness of their Trident missiles, why should Vladimir Putin fear them? How vulnerable is Europe to an increasingly aggressive and expansionist Russia? Share your opinion on this British nuclear disgrace and the implications for Western security. Leave your comment below.